All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our Global Devils workshop. It's going to be put on today by Brian. He's here with the Office of National Scholarship and Achievement. He's going to be talking about different funding opportunities to do fellowships, study abroad, doing your research, and helping you out with that. So it's really informal. We're doing kind of a brown bag lunch series, so we welcome you to eat, enjoy some of the snacks, ask questions. We're going to tailor it to the people that are here in the room today. All right, without further ado, Brian.
Great, thank you. And for those of you watching remotely, I'll have my contact information at the end, and you can always send us questions afterwards. So, as Ben mentioned, I'm with the Lorraine W. Frank Office of National Scholarship Advisement, otherwise known as ANZA. So over the summer, we thankfully shortened, we had like 15 links you had to click to find our website, but now you can just go anza.asu.edu, and we'll have that at the end. But basically what we do, and a lot of students don't know about our office, so my main role is outreach. Let students know who we are, what we do. In this 45 minutes or so, I'm just going to give you a real brief snapshot of what some of the nationally competitive scholarships are and then how you can compete for those. So this is not going to be all-encompassing by any means, but it'll hopefully at least get you started. But we are available for all 4 campuses, all ASU students. So we happen to be housed in Barrett Honors College, but we are in no way just for Barrett students. So that's where our office is. But just know that as we go through these, we're available for all students. I also would like to mention, if sometimes a scholarship might not be applicable to you, but you know of a friend, like, oh, so-and-so would be perfect for that, if you could pass that on or give them the information, that'd be fantastic. So basically what our office does, we publicize national scholarship opportunities, and I'll explain what that is in a minute. We advise current students based on their interests and what scholarships might be appropriate. So I will meet with students one-on-one. I'll have you bring in your resume and transcript. We'll go through just your interests, opportunities, and a lot of times we'll come up with 3 or 4 or 5, depending on the student. We also oversee campus selection committees and processes. Most of these nationally competitive have to go through our office. So when you're competing against the United States, in most cases you have to work with a central office on that campus, and in this case it's ours. So a lot of times we'll have a faculty committee that will actually do mock interviews and help prepare you best to move on to that next stage. And we provide guidance throughout the entire process. So we're really here as a resource for our students. So national scholarships, we get this call, we like to call them fellowships too, because this will basically shut down the parent of incoming freshmen, like, hey, we're looking for scholarships. Well, we're different. We're nationally competed fellowships, and it's just a different tone. So it's different than national merit. National merit, you're applying as a high school student to be funded for your undergrad. This is when you're already an undergraduate student, or in some cases grad students. The funding sources, it's not from ASU. These are funding sources extramural, so it might be coming from business, federal government, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, for example. They're very prestigious. So this is a key point I want to make. The money is not the major benefit. So while it is a benefit, and in some cases it's a huge benefit, $30,000 to $70,000, in some cases it might be $5,000, but with it comes a leadership experience in Washington, D.C., you're networking with other students. So look at this more as these are on top of your financial aid or funding. This is like the icing on the cake. Lifetime recognition and connections, and they're incredible experiences. I've had students study abroad, I've had students go to national research labs, the whole gamut, and they come back and they said that was life altering. It's phenomenal. So general benefits, I've already mentioned financial support. You're going to have access to highly prestigious institutions. In a lot of cases, cutting edge research. I used to work in Fulton Engineering, so a lot of my students won the Goldwater, which we're not going to actually cover today because it's not really applicable to downtown necessarily. But Goldwater are for engineering STEM majors, so the Polytechnic campus and definitely the Tempe campus. I've had a lot of winners for that one. Most of these you have international experiences. So just for whatever reasons, with nationally competitive scholarships, a lot of them send you abroad. And I highly recommend, if you've never considered going abroad, to go abroad. So one of the things I do, the Gilman Scholarship, which we're going to talk about, and the Study Abroad office partners with me on that one. So when I do workshops, I'm actually doing half ANZA, and then we do half Study Abroad. How many of you, I'll throw this out, what percentage of US undergraduate students study abroad? This is not like going for a week with your parents, but like study abroad. What percentage?
24%.
24, 3?
We covered it last time, the last workshop we had.
1.5. 1.5. Okay, think about what that means though. So 98.5% do not. So if you're that 1.5, you right away stick out as someone who's adaptable, flexible, culturally immersed. There's so many benefits, and we've had students study abroad, and in a job interview, that's practically all they talk about. So you're gonna stand out if you do that. And then the key point too, the process can be a good learning experience and serve as a stepping stone to later awards. So we've had students apply freshman, sophomore, and they won or they didn't win. And even if they didn't win, they came to us and said the process, working with faculty on a really tough essay. I mean, you're not just gonna slap this together. We're gonna do multiple rewrites. Working with faculty mock interviews and really honing my interview skills, etc. Going through the process is really gonna help you for internships, grad school, whatever opportunities might be available later. So who's the ideal applicant? All of you. There's no such thing. So every student I've ever met with in some way, shape, or form has the ability to apply for multiple national scholarships. Most of us are strong in one area. We need to work on others. That includes me. I don't think you ever outgrow that. We're always learning, growing, stretching. But the common areas for evaluation in general are academic record, activities, personal statements, and recommendation letters. So whatever stage you're at, whether you're a freshman or you're even a senior, I'm going to real briefly just cover what that means, and if you have gaps or things you need to work on to be competitive. Again, remember, you're competing with the United States, so if you're like big into leadership, well, so are the 200 other applicants. So we've got to get you above what kinds of things are going to set you apart. So the first thing's academic record. Obviously, that's your transcript, your ASU transcript, and if you have other community colleges and things like that. The key point is GPA in context and appropriate curriculum. Are you taking the most challenging courses? So again, I worked in engineering. Some of the engineering classes are very, very hard, but some of the students would kind of add some fluff. And I don't want to pick on fluff classes, so I'm not going to put specifics. But there's some classes, they're guaranteed A's. Well, the committees are going to see that. Like you took a bunch of easy classes to get some A's to boost your GPA. So try to stretch yourself and take some tougher classes if you can. If there's a 300 level or a 400 level and you can take the 400, why not take the 400? Or in some cases, even grad level classes. Grade trends. This is very important. I have a lot of students who stumble early. So maybe their freshman year, they bombed. Or maybe their sophomore or junior year, they had a death in the family, or something came up, life happens. That's not going to disqualify you. And we can help you explain that in the essays. So if you had a dip, don't say, oh, I can never apply for these, because we'll help you figure that out. And then bonus, if you present at conferences, publish in journals, etc., that's going to just help you rise to the top. For activities, the main point I want to make on this is try to have sustained commitment. So a lot of students are shotgun. They do a one day here, and they get involved in this for a week, and they volunteer here, and that's great. But try to also find something that speaks to your major or your passion, so they can see, like, you know, if you're sociology, you're doing some volunteer work with sociology kinds of organizations, and you're building that. Service beyond campus is good because there's a lot of opportunities at ASU, but try to get involved if you can outside as well. Key point here is outcomes, not titles. I used to be the student organization coordinator in the Memorial Union, so I worked with 800 clubs, which are now 1,200 or 1,300. I can't tell you how many students had titles, and they were all proud. Hey, I'm the treasurer. Now I'm the vice president, and now I'm the president. And I said, what did you do? What did you do? So I know how officer transition works. In April or so, you know, you're graduating, and I'm the incoming officer, or vice versa. I'm graduating, you're the incoming officer. I give you the binder, and now the next year you run the meetings and you do everything in the binder, and that's great. You kept the club running, but you didn't do anything above and beyond, like new initiatives, major impact. So these are looking for impacts, and we're going to try to help you develop that. Personal statements, I'm not going to cover this very much because we're going to help you with this extensively, but just know a lot of students bury the lead, and I'm looking at this right now with Gilman. So the Gilman deadline's today, so the last 2 weeks all I've done is look at Gilman. Students they have a quote up front, they're talking and I'm excited about this, and this is life-changing, but I'm like, where are you going? Like, what country did you pick? How long is the trip? How many credits are you getting? By the time I read that, it was the 4th paragraph, and if I'm a Gilman judge, I'm tossing it. So we've got to help students learn to catch them right away. Who are you? What are you about? Why did you pick that country or that research experience? And then do the rest of the narrative. But we're going to help you with that from start to finish. And then last but not least, letters of recommendation are incredibly important for these nationally competitive scholarships. And in fact, in most cases, you're not going to have an interview with the national organization. In most cases, your personal statements, your essays, and your letters of recommendation are all the committee has to go on. So if I'm a judge in Washington, D.C., that might be all I can judge you on. So they're really important, and you've got to have one or two or more faculty. So if you have not already developed those relationships, go to the faculty office hours, start talking to them after class, let them know who you are and what you're excited about. Hey, I'm going to apply for a Fulbright, or hey, I'm going for the Truman. Develop that relationship, because those faculty are going to need to write your letters. Give them time, 4 weeks in advance. I cannot stress that enough. Now, if it's 2 or 3, that's still fine, but nothing is worse than dropping a bomb on a faculty. So here's an example. I had a student approach a faculty the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. The Wednesday before Thanksgiving, it was due on Monday. So the faculty said, oh, so you want me to give up my Thanksgiving holiday so I can write you a letter? No, and don't ask me again. So she burned that bridge, and it was just like not completely inappropriate. So, just give them enough time, allow them to say no. Sometimes faculty are really busy, or they don't know you well enough. So they might just say, I'm sorry, I just don't have time, or I don't think I can write a good letter. And then explain why you've asked. So give them everything you can to make it easy. You're almost writing it for them. Give them bullet points, like don't give them a stack of information, but give them bullet points. Here's what the Udall Scholarship's looking for. Here's my experience that fits. Make it really easy so when they write it, like, oh yeah, I've known Joe for 3 years. He was my freshman in this class. He's got the perfect leadership qualities. I mean, just give them everything possible to make it easy. So the sheet I gave you, and for those watching remotely, anza.asu.edu, there's about 30 or so scholarships listed. The point I want to make is we used to advise 20 to 25 for years. Since Dr. Kyle Mox, our new director, came on board June 1st, he brought different scholarships with him, like in terms of his knowledge, from the University of Chicago and Texas A&M. So we are now doubling it. Over the holiday break, we did our top 50, and I put that in quotes because it's 57, because we just didn't want to narrow it down. It's like, well, no, but I want to do that one, and I want to do that one. So in addition to the worksheet, in addition to our website, and that website will keep getting beefed up, we're talking about 50 or so nationally competitive scholarships. So don't let this be all-inclusive, like, oh, I don't quite see something on this list. There's probably other opportunities for you. But because I'm downtown and because of the majors and because of the focus on study abroad and maybe downtown majors, the 8 I want to kind of focus on this morning or this afternoon. Study abroad, the Bourne Awards, Critical Languages, Gilman, Killam, and Fulbright. And then ones that probably fit this campus and the majors would be PPIA, Public Policy and International Affairs, the Truman Scholarship, and the Udall. But again, this is far from all-inclusive. So all I'm going to do is give you about a minute snapshot on each one, just enough to see if it whets your appetite and you might want more information, and at that point you would work with our office. So the Bourne Awards for International Study, in a nutshell, the best way to describe this, it's language immersion long-term, 6 to 12 months. So with a Bourne, you're not going to even necessarily be getting credit, and we know that not all students want to take that break, but if you do and you really want to immerse yourself in a language, Bourne's probably a great opportunity. They have a list of countries, so Africa, Asia, Central, Eastern Europe, etc. Western Europe, Canada, Australia, New Zealand are excluded, so they don't want you to pick an English-speaking country, a traditionally English-speaking country. It's open to all undergrads, and typically about a 3.5 GPA. Now, this is long-term. The one that students do get excited about, that's fairly new within our office, is Critical Languages Scholarship, also sponsored by the same group. So IIE, the Institute for International Education, sponsors Bourne, Critical Language, Fulbright, Killam, a lot of them. So it's the same parent organization, but what's great about CLS, it's a summer program. So a lot of the students, they want to get that language because it's going to really help them in their career. If they're going into government, policy, you name it. They want to do it, but they just didn't have the time for 6 to 12 months. Well, this one you do. So it's typically 8 to 10 weeks. They fly you to Washington, D.C. So they fly a group of U.S. citizens to Washington, D.C. You're going to do an orientation, and then in groups of 10 to 15, you fly to these different countries. And for 8 to 10 weeks, you're immersed in the language. So you're in a classroom with just U.S. students and a full-time faculty, You're traveling the country, you're exploring the region. It's a great immersion opportunity, and they pay for everything. So they pay for the trip to DC, the trip there, living expenses. So it's an all expense paid summer experience for language. The Gilman, I mentioned this one already. This is my favorite because I'm the one who will support the students on this. I work with the students on the essays. Like I say, this is my baby. So Fulbright and some of the other ones, you're going to work with the faculty director, Dr. Kyle Mox or Dr. Jackie Scott, one of our other faculty. With this one, Gilman, you're going to work with me. So it's anytime for undergrads, but what I love about this, and I think this is a key point for this group, it's students who've been traditionally underrepresented in study abroad. So Gilman specifically tries to seek out first-generation college students, diverse ethnic backgrounds, underrepresented fields of study, such as STEM majors, non-traditional age students, physical learning disabilities, and on and on. So students who normally would not go abroad, Gilman wants to fund you to go abroad. They give preference to non-traditional destinations, which is outside Western Europe, Australia, and New Zealand. Try to pick a country that's not there. So I was just explaining earlier, out of the 100 or so Gilman applicants for summer, about 80 of them picked Western Europe. So those 80 are going to be competing with a lot of other students. Whereas if they picked Africa, Asia, South America, they have a 50 to 70% shot if they're working with their office. So it's competitive, but not nearly as competitive as some of the other ones. You have to have a Pell Grant. This is the only scholarship we work with that has a financial component to it. So with Gilman, and again, I said, if this doesn't qualify, if you're not qualified, but you have friends, if you know friends like, oh, I know someone with financial aid or a Pell Grant, they are a perfect Gilman applicant. So what I love about this, some scholarships you might have 50 or 60 a year. Some you might, Fulbright has a lot. Fulbright has like 700, but Gilman has 2,800. So 2,800 students of up to $5,000. So this is no small potatoes. This is real money. I see our students about 1 to 3 or 1 and 2 even win a Gilman. So if you have a Pell Grant and you want to study abroad, I say go for it. The key point is you've got to go for 28 days or longer. So a month in one country or longer, and you have to have the Pell Grant. The amount of the award basically depends on how long you're there. So if you're there for short term, for 1 month, it's about $3,000. If you're there long term, it's about $5,000. They also have a critical need language component for up to $3,000 more. So a Gilman could earn you up to $8,000. So it's a significant award. The Killam, about the only thing I need to really say about this one is it's a Fulbright Canada. So it's anytime during your undergrad, and it will send you to one of multiple places within Canada. This is a very underutilized scholarship that is a great opportunity for our ASU students that not a lot of students look at it. I think Canada's not as sexy, so to speak. But if you look at some of the places, Montreal, Quebec, British Columbia, I mean, there's some great places to go. Yeah, Toronto, it pays $5,000 for semester, $10,000 for academic year. And then key point, remember I mentioned, this isn't always about the money. It includes a 3-day orientation in Ottawa and a 3-day spring seminar in Washington, D.C. So you're going to have this leadership intensive experience, networking opportunity in Canada and in Washington. It's a great, great opportunity. Key point here, students should explain why there's a need to study in Canada. That trips some students up. They think, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be qualified. No, any major, we can figure out an angle to that. If you're in healthcare, you're going to study the Canadian healthcare system. If you're into public policy and government, you want to study their governmental system. I mean, that's not that hard. We had a student who was a marine biology major at ASU, which I thought was odd because last I looked, there's no ocean, right? But she picked British Columbia and she got it. So she was there for a year on the ocean. Like it was the best possible experience for her being an ASU student to spend a year on the ocean with her marine biology. So it's open to any undergrad. Superior academic achievement, there's no real GPA, but typically 3.6, 3.7. But we would work with you on that to see if you're qualified. Okay, I'm gonna skip the study abroad to the very end, so there's one more we're gonna talk about at the end. But a couple other ones that might be good for this audience, and this is brand new with our office. And this is what gets me really excited. I was a political science and journalism communications undergrad. This would have just got me so excited as an undergrad. It gets me excited now, but I can't go. So Public Policy and International Affairs, PPIA. What this is, it's a fully paid summer internship after your junior year. So it's 7 weeks at either Princeton, Carnegie Mellon, UC Berkeley, or Michigan. So you're doing this intensive program talking about public policy, public administration, international affairs, all of these other issues. You're networking with students across the country. You have these top leaders helping to teach you and lead these workshops. But then this is a key that they don't really publicize all that much, but it's a fact. If you get chosen as a junior to go to PPIA, you also then get priority access to grad school at Princeton, Carnegie Mellon, UC Berkeley, and Michigan. And there's a ton of money attached to this, and they don't publicize that, and I can't talk about it. But let me just say, like, if you get PPIA, you are inside track to do some pretty amazing things. We just had a winner 2 weeks ago from the downtown campus. I won't say the name yet, but we're ecstatic. So we just started working with this a few months ago. We had our first applicant and our first winner. So we're very, very excited about that. The Moen Stewart Udall Scholarship, I always ask this, and for those at home, you can look this up. Does anyone know, Morris goes by Mo. Has anyone heard the names Mo Udall or Stewart Udall?
Mo Udall.
Mo Udall?
Yeah. You came to that local 383. Was he running for president?
He was running, yes, he ran for offices. He was a congressman in Arizona.
Yeah.
Stuart Udall, so Mo was very active in Arizona politics. Stuart Udall was Secretary of the Interior. So what made these guys tick, their legacy, is they are passionate, unfortunately they both passed, but they were passionate about environmental issues and Native American issues. So they have a scholarship now that awards any student in environmental sustainability. ASU has the first school of sustainability. That's kind of a big deal. And then Native American students who are interested in tribal public policy or Native American healthcare. So we are specifically targeting Native students, or I used to work in civil engineering and we had an environmental component. Both winners from ASU last year were civil engineering. They were my students before I moved to Barrett. So it covers a wide range of those areas. It funds $7,000, so you apply as a sophomore or a junior, and then it will fund $7,000 for your junior and or senior year. And they also have a 4-day scholar orientation that is phenomenal. So I got to go to this in August, and I have a picture coming up. But basically, if you're a sophomore or junior in those fields, I highly recommend you consider the Udall. And so this was actually in Tucson last August. So there were 60 across the country, so about one per state. ASU had 2. We had 2 Sun Devils. U of A had none. Sorry if this is dated, and they win a couple this year, but they had none, and it was in Tucson. So, kind of whatever. So Vid and Daniela, it's hard to see, I know, but they were our 2 students. But I also got to know this whole group. I was there for 3 of the 4 days. That was, I'm blanking on the first name, but Mark Udall, he was former congressman from Colorado. So the Udall family's been really active in Arizona, Utah, and Colorado, politics, environmental, etc. But again, that 4 days, the students said, I don't even care if I get the scholarship. Like at that point, the money was secondary. They learned so much and they're a Udall alumni for life. So that's a big deal in terms of future networking and career opportunities, etc. And then last but not least, the Truman Scholarship. Before I move on, I must point out Frank Smith, who was the downtown campus student government president, won.
And he's a TRIO student.
Oh, and he's a TRIO student, so even better.
Yeah.
So one of your own TRIO students won this last year. I got to sit in Frank's mock interview, so I talked about the interviews. Frank went through 3 mock interviews with our faculty, and I can tell you they were not easy. And the first one, the faculty basically roughed him up and gave him some very brutal feedback, but they had to. We had to get him ready for the national committee, and this was one of the regional committees for the West, and so Frank was part of that, and then he ended up winning it. So in a nutshell, what Truman is public service. So obviously for downtown, this is perfect fit for a lot of the students. What I love about this, you apply your junior year, but it funds $30,000 for your grad school. So Frank is now a senior, and he already knows he has $30,000 to go anywhere in the country. And so he's like, yeah, I don't have to worry about applying for money, because I've already got it. So he's all set up. It also has leadership development activities, networking, all the things I've talked about before. The key though on this, you've got to be committed to being a change agent to improve government agencies, nonprofit, or educational institutions. That's very broad. So that can cover a lot of different majors. So the traditional fields are the ones that I originally thought were the only ones, Truman, political science, public policy, but no. My boss, Dr. Kyle Mock, said, no, we've had winners in all these other areas, agriculture, biology, engineering, etc. So any major can win, it's just proving you're a change agent for government nonprofit education. It's very broad, and you apply as a junior, you're going to win later in the junior. So our Truman committee actually is March 24th. The regional committee will be March 24th. We have another finalist, Erin Schulte, so we're wishing her the best. And then last but not least, I'm going back to the study abroad. Fulbright. It's our bread and butter. ASU has been in the top 10 for the last 10 years. We just got huge news last Monday, February 22nd. ASU's #1 in the nation for Fulbright scholars, and what that is, are PhD students or faculty who win a Fulbright. We're #1 in the entire United States. We're #5 in the entire United States for student winners of Fulbright. So it's a huge feather in our cap. We beat out just about every other public institution. The only ones who beat us were like Harvard, Yale, Northwestern. Harvard sent 130 something forward, and they got 10 more than we did. We sent 70 forward. So Harvard flooded the market. Like, don't you have other scholarships and things that, like, come on, Harvard, right? So they flooded it. They got a few more than we did. But in terms of percentage, ASU was, I think, #1. Don't quote me on that, but we were one of the top percentages. So here's the key. When I meet with students, one thing I didn't cover is roads, because it's just one of those super elite, only about 1% get it. I think students that I meet with, when I talk about Fulbright, they go, oh, I'm not Fulbright material. I don't think I could win a Fulbright. And the first thing I ask them is, why not? Fulbright is not looking for the overachieving GPA, I've solved cancer, I've cured cancer. It's any undergraduate major, so that's everyone in this room, everyone watching, any undergraduate major, and you can either research or teach in one of 155 countries. The key point on Fulbright, it was established for Senator Fulbright, is mutual understanding between the people of the US and other countries. The #1 goal of Fulbright is to send more students abroad, kind of like Gilman, but that you're diving, immersing into that country. And you're gonna then come back and basically spread that knowledge and experience. So you can either do research study, where you're gonna do some homework and you're gonna reach out to a faculty, say your health. You're going to reach out to someone in medical industry or faculty and say, hey, if I get a Fulbright, could you help mentor me for this year while I'm in your country? So you're going to be doing research, but you're also going to be immersing in the country. Most of our students now, though, pick English Teaching Assistant, ETA. And ETA goes to one of 70-some countries, and you're helping a teacher. You're not the main teacher. You're helping a teacher teach little kids, middle school, high school English. And so you'll know by the country, like if you have an age preference, you'll know by the country before you even go. And you're helping 20 to 30 hours a week. The rest of the time, you're out and about. If you're into hiking, you join a hiking club. If you're into choir, you're joining a choir. You're out and about and immersing. That's the main thing. It goes back to the mutual understanding. That's what you have to convey in the essay, and that's what we're going to help you do. So for the ETA, the other question I get is, well, I'm not a teaching major. You don't have to be. You have to have applicable skills. Coach, peer mentor, community assistant. I was a lifeguard and a swim instructor. Perfect. So if you can have those applicable experiences, you're perfect for an ETA. It's fully funded. So the earliest you can apply is you start late junior year. So basically the summer after your junior year, and it's due September 15th internally to ASU. It's due September 15th, your senior year. But if you miss that, that's okay, because Fulbright, you're an alumni forever until you earn a PhD, and then you're a Fulbright scholar. So you can have a master's degree, you can take 5 years off, you can apply a year after you graduate, whatever that is, but you're eligible at any point. It's just, when you go, you already have earned your bachelor's. So you typically apply, say, September of your senior year, you find out around March or April of your senior year, and then you go that summer, typically about August, for a year abroad, everything paid. So I just can't stress enough, we know how to win these, we know how to coach you. Any ASU student should at least consider this, and we will help you be as competitive as possible. So I mentioned contact information earlier. So even though I'm housed in Barrett, again, I'm available for all students, all 4 campuses. We happen to be in Honors Hall 227. It's above the Barrett Dining Hall in Tempe campus. But the easiest by far is just the anza.asu.edu. Dr. Kyle Mox, our director, my name is there, just first name dot last name at asu.edu, if you want to write for questions. And I think with that, are there any questions for the good of the group? And for those at home, you can email.
Well, thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate your time.
I appreciate it.
See if any students stick around to ask anything further.
All right.
We'll also be passing out our surveys, and we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you,
I
guys.
just applied for the ASU Foundation Scholarship.
That's great.
Went to the requirements to get